If you're like me, you grew up watching some incredible superhero TV shows that didn't shy away from taking themselves seriously, even though they were kids' shows. Today, I'm ranking my top 5 childhood superhero shows, so let's jump right into it. At number 5, I got The Justice League Unlimited. This one could have been a lot higher in my list, I just didn't watch it as much as the other shows as I grew up, but still an incredible show. Justice League Unlimited is one of those shows that took every single hero from DC and somehow gave him the spotlight to shine. Even known heroes, for example, Booster Gold, the first time I heard and found out who Booster Gold is was through that show. And same thing with a lot of other characters like The Question, for example. They took a kids show and turned it into a massive connected universe, which I feel like was unheard of at the time. One of the biggest things that even makes the show stand out is they have mature storytelling inside of the kids' shows. They have the action-packed scenes and they have the mature storytelling as well. It really does balances it out with being a kids' shows and then having those savvy and serious moments. For example, even in the first episode, the Justice League is trying to help people while still dealing with a shady government that doesn't trust them. And another example is you have the Cadmus arc in the show, which is honestly one of the best storylines in any superhero cartoon. The government is scared that the Justice League is way too powerful. And even as a kid, you understand why that fear exists. That if someone misused that power, it would be terrifying. Also, how did this show make me care for the Hunters in The Question, for example? That's what I'm saying. They have these episodes that are just centered around these less known characters. And those are some of the best episodes in the show. Justice League Unlimited is one of those shows that grows with you. As a kid, you just love the fight scenes and seeing your favorite superheroes. But as you get older and older and you rewatch the show, you really start admiring the show for the storytelling. And you can tell how much the crew involved in making the show really cared about these characters. At number 4, I got The Batman. A show that really flies under the radar because it's always compared and it lives under the shadow of the Batman animated series, which is a great show. But honestly, The Batman deserves way more love. I grew up watching this show more than the animated series. That's why I don't have the animated series in this list, so don't get mad at me. This show starts out with young Bruce Wayne. He's 3 years into being Batman. And just like the other shows on this list, even though it's a kids show, the storyteller isn't afraid to get more serious. One thing I really love about the show are the character designs. They're really unique. The Joker, when I was younger, he genuinely creeped me out. I was scared of the Joker in that show. And the villains, they can actually fight. They're an opposing threat to Batman physically, for the most part. They aren't just punching bags. The fight animations are insane. They were cooking in the studio when they're making the show. And even though the fight scenes are really good, the show also focuses on the detective aspect of Batman, which is really cool. Even from the first episode, we're told how in the 3 years that Batman has become a vigilante in Gotham, crime has gone down. So it's cool to see that he's actually making a difference as well in the city. There's been adaptations of Batman where it's been Batman and then you hear in the news or something that crime has only gone up, for example. But I like the idea that Batman is actually making a difference in the streets. Also, I like when we get the playboy billionaire Bruce Wayne persona, because I know helping him hide that he's Batman, I think that's also always really cool and just a bonus as well for the show. One of the moments from the show that really comes to mind when I think of this show is when Batman first fought Bane, and Batman realizing that he's outmatched physically because Bane starts juicing up mid-fight and he becomes that scary red monster. Almost reminds me of Red Hulk. But he really has to rethink how he fights, and it's a really good setup for the rest of the series. One of the really cool things about this show as well is how at first he starts working alone. He doesn't have any sidekicks. And as the show progresses, he gets the sidekicks as Batgirl and Robin and things like that. It's really cool to see. At number 3, I got Ben 10. That show really had me thinking what it would be like to be an alien as a kid. It had my imagination going wild. Really cool show. For those who don't know, Ben 10 follows a 10-year-old Ben Tennyson on a road trip during the summer where he comes across the Omnitrix, a device that looks like a watch but lets him transform into a bunch of 10 different aliens. Side note really quick, I love how in the show, Ben is always ready to throw hands. He's never scared, never runs away. He's just ready to just get in the ring with the bad guy that he's fighting. He's not scared to be a villain. Just like Spider-Man running out of webs, Ben 10 had his limits too. The Omnitrix would time out and he would turn into a different alien that he wanted to. And seeing your main character overcome those obstacles in his journey, it's really cool, and it gives you more room to do some really good storytelling like they did in the show. He's not just perfect out of the bat. He has to overcome those things. One of my favorite storylines from the show is the Ghost Freak escaping from the Omnitrix and becoming a recurring villain on the show. Such good storytelling. From one of the aliens that he transforms into, gaining consciousness, leaving the Omnitrix and becoming a villain. Super cool, really incredible. Also, the aliens on this show are so creative. They're so unique designs and things and powers. Well, some of them not as much as the others, but I'm very surprised that we don't have more shows like that. Other shows should take inspiration from Ben 10 and how creative and unique it is. It's really incredible. I tried picking just one favorite alien to talk about in this part of the video, but I honestly couldn't just choose. I honestly tried picking just one alien to name as my favorite alien for this video, but I honestly could not just pick one. It's really hard. So my top 3 when watching the show as a kid were Heat Blast, Accelerate, and 4 Arms. Heat Blast just has aura, his design has cool powers. Also, when Ben gets sick and then he goes from shooting fire and things like that to shooting ice, that's fucking so cool. That was one of my favorite episodes as well. That was so cool to see. Accelerate, it's like the classic speedster, like the Flash and things like that. OP power for sure. Might be his honestly the strongest alien in the original show. And then 4 Arms is just a Giga Chad. Super strong, looks cool design, iconic. I wanted to be as strong as 4 Arms and things like that. It was really awesome. Ben 10 is a show that really balances out. It balances being fun, having the action, and showing a lot of character growth with the main characters. For example, Ben starts being an immature little kid, and he slowly realizes that being a hero isn't about just showing off. It's about the responsibility that comes with that. And that show does the good job showing that progression, especially when he moves on to the next show where he's a teenager. Really awesome. But moving on. Now, on the second spot in this list is a TV show that if I didn't include it in my list, I think people will get really upset at me. But of course, taking the second spot, I have the Teen Titans TV show. Enough said, I don't even need to explain, but I'm still going to. Teen Titans was a perfect mix of anime-inspired comedy, emotional storytelling, and an amazing animation. For those who have never watched or don't remember that well, the show follows Robin, Raven, Beast Boy, Starfire, and Cyborg. And it is a kids show where they fight their weekly villains, which is still cool to see. It's cool to see them have their villains that they're dealing with and overcoming that, having their fight scenes. So it's really cool. But the big story arcs is what makes that show stand out from the others. For example, the episode that Cyborg is struggling and having insecurities about not being able to push past his 100%. It's so good. It's so memorable as a kid. He's like, I have limits. He's telling Robin, I have limits because I'm a cyborg. You can't push a machine past its limits. And throughout the episode, you see him dealing with the struggle. And when it comes to the end of it, where he's like, his team is depending on him, he pushes past 100% and he's able to overcome that insecurity. And as a kid, you help kids learn, oh man, I can push past my insecurities and work hard and things like that. But even as an adult, that hits me now. Honestly, despite all the other characters having really cool powers, my favorite character was always Robin. He has no powers, but he's still the leader of the team. He has aura. He has a Batman aura attached to him. That's what the appeal for Batman and Robin are for me. Because even without powers, they're still incredible superheroes to the point where they're the leaders of their groups. Another really cool episode of the show is when Robin... Another really cool episode from the show is called The Quest. It's when Robin loses a fight to this guy named Ketaro. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. So he travels to Asia to have a training arc. And he's looking for this person called the True Master to help him train. But he has to go up this mountain and it's a big journey to get there, right? And throughout the episode, Ketaro, that villain that he lost to, is secretly following him so he can look out the True Master. And his journey throughout the episode is teaching him about working hard and overcoming and getting better and things like that. And by the end, defeats the villain. But it's really cool to see that story arc like that. He was just a training arc, man. Like that, I don't know, reminds me of monks from Batman comics when he's like, oh man, I learned this technique from Himalayan monks or something like that. Teen Titans really shines because of the character-driven arcs, honestly. It can flip from being a goofy anime-inspired TV show to dark TV show with emotional and weight attached to it in seconds, which perfectly fits the teenage emotions as you watch it as a kid, as you watch it as a teenager, and an adult as you get older. For example, Robin and Slade. That arc in that show, legendary. It's Robin gets obsessed with defeating Slade to the point he's hallucinating, showing how far a superhero can go when pushed too hard, even as a kid. Or what about Raven's prophecy against Trigon with her father? And at the end of the show, we have the Terra with Beast Boy, their friendship with the betrayal and the redemption. So many, it's like a roller coaster of emotions on that show. One of the things that makes me the most mad in life is how that show got canceled. We never got a proper finish to that show. And everything has to do with toy sales, but I'm not going to go into it. I love that show. I rewatch it yearly. I wish we had more of it. And finally, we have the number one on the list. And a lot of people will also agree with me. Spectacular Spider-Man. Absolutely cinema. Honestly, this show might be the closest adaptation of capturing everything that makes Spider-Man, well, Spider-Man. It balances Peter Parker's high school life, his relationship, his job, and his superhero's responsibilities pretty much perfectly. And I know that Peter Parker comic book run is not just being in high school, but it is the most iconic what people think of Peter Parker at first. And I grew up watching while I was in school, so it matches that vibe perfectly, being for kids, but I was still an adult having that Spider-Man feel to it. Every episode just builds on the last one, which even the villains matter. The show does a really good job of setting up things for the later on episodes. For example, Doc Ock being in a lot of the episodes just as a scientist and later on being a villain, things like that. One of my favorite villains in the show, it is the Venom, the Brock's transformation into Venom. It's not just random, you get to see the tension build up between Peter Parker and Eddie. By episode, and it finally pays off when he becomes Venom, and then he's not just like a random villain. It feels like you earned the switch up to being a villain. Or the Green Goblin mystery, so it's also really amazing. The fake outs and the clues and the payoff. It rewards you for paying attention. Also, that TV show for kids did not have any business being so cool with the action scenes. They do such a good job. I know there's moments, obviously lower budgets, but you can see where they save up the money for the really cool animations. I don't know, just the movements have a lot of fluidity to it, and how Spider-Man uses his environments and things like that. When Spider-Man is fighting the Vulture and is diving through skyscrapers, it's really good. Spectacular Spider-Man didn't just adapt the comics; it wasn't just a carbon copy. It understood what's the heart about being Spider-Man and what being the Spider-Man story is about. I think it's the best Spider-Man TV show we ever got, and it's gonna stay like that for probably forever, honestly. The show does such a good job showing how Peter balancing being Spider-Man and having a personal life as Peter Parker is always against each other. They never go hand in hand. He's always having to sacrifice something for the benefit of the other. Peter Parker needs to go save the day as Spider-Man. It backfires him as Peter Parker and his job as his internship, things like that, and vice versa. And this animated show, peak. Absolutely fire. Probably one of my favorite shows since I was a kid, and it's gonna stay like that forever. If you watch all the way through, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please. It will help me so much. I enjoy making these videos. I'm new to it, but I want to keep making these. These were my top 5 childhood superhero TV shows. And have a good day.